What it means is any child that is 15 months and above, not up to 2 years, that walk into any clinic, public or private, in Nigeria for this vaccination will get it, as long as the air remains, because it has come to stay. We are now introducing it. It's not until when it is campaigned, say in second quarter, third quarter, the child have. So we now have that opportunity. Now, with this intensified effort and the introduction of the second dose and the commitment of the government, from the leadership of the chief executive of the agency, working with the partners and the support we have from the ministry and His Excellency, the President, it has come to say this is going to be a sustained support. So if you see in 10 years, we had 80% reduction in the proportion of children that died from measles. In another 2 years, we should reduce that 10% that is remaining to something less than 5% of what we've recorded by 2000. So we expect to see an improved coverage. We expect to see less of our children being maimed or dying from measles. And all we will need from Nigerians is the cooperation, our parents, caregivers, to realize the fact that the vaccines that are provided by the federal government are very safe. And it's better to give our children these vaccines and prevent what would have come out from measles if a child contacts the measles vaccine. And again, to mention here, out to Nigerians, when we currently talk about the government policy of measles second dose for children younger age, even adults should know that even adults are not spared. The only situation is that 70% of people that come down with measles are children less than 5 years, 70% of them. We can have adults that will come down with measles, but when it happens to an adult that is above 20 years, the complications are usually more than when it happens to a younger child.
Okay. The vaccines, by Dr. Puson's testimony, are very, very safe. What's the state of the cold chain regarding safety of these vaccines in Nigeria? When we return after this report from Ibadan on the strides recorded by the National Primary Healthcare Program in Nigeria on immunization, we'll take that report. Once again, our focus tonight is immunization and child survival in Nigeria. And our Twitter handle is open at Tuesday Live NTA. At the appropriate time, the lines will be open, but just after this report from Ibadan.
Immunization is one of the most successful and cost-effective public health interventions, saving the lives of 3 million children annually. It has been discovered that universal coverage with a single dose of measles vaccine at 9 months is usually insufficient, and measles outbreaks still occur periodically. Hence, the introduction of measles second dose at 15 months. Investigation in Ibadan reveals that improving immunization coverage requires regular assessment of the exercise to determine whether the program objectives are met.
But this one is special program. They brought their babies and they receive measles vaccine, second measles vaccine. They receive vitamin A and worming.
It has come and it has stand that during our rice section, the mothers will be bringing their children for the measles too. Any child from 15 months.
The local government has a target population of 1,701, and as at the report of October, we have immunized up to 95% of our target. The coverage was 9 to 59 months, and despite that, many children were still not being vaccinated. But now that it has been introduced into the schedule, it is now very, very compulsory.
A visit to primary health care centers in Ibadan showed that majority of mothers turned out for the second dose of 15 months of the routine immunization.
Tell us that is good, then is a benefit for our children.
The baby used to look healthy, good.
Mothers are therefore urged to attend antenatal care and educational interventions targeted to improve vaccination status of children.
That was strides recorded in Ibadan. Our next stop will be Sokoto. Let's take a listen.
There is high compliance here on the routine measles immunization exercise in Sokoto State. The exercise is divided into phases. The first phase targets 11 local governments, while the second, the other 12 local government areas of the state.
The turnout is very much impressive. And you know, people knows what measles and meningitis are. The extent that most of the vaccines we issue out per day got exhausted to the extent of even supplying more.
While global measles deaths have decreased by 84% worldwide in recent years, the disease is still common in many developing countries. World Health Organization records indicate. This exercise hopes to cover more than 1 million children within 23 local government areas of the state.
There's every likelihood for us to meet some children that may likely be absent, and we decide to declare 2 days month off after the 8 days full implementation.
The routine exercise is part of strategies to eradicate measles in the country. In Sokoto, I am Musa Mubaka, NTA News.
Our focus once again is immunization on child survival in Nigeria. Dr. Banda, if the vaccines are very safe, what's the status of the cold chain in Nigeria in terms of where these vaccines are supposed to be kept before they go for immunization? And do we still have cases where your officials are chased away when they arrive in particular communities?
Yeah, I think Dr. Terry can answer that one more than I can, but I wish to state that the cold chain actually starts from national level, and then we have zonal level, and we also have at state level. The vaccine basically come, through that, and then from the state level, they go to the LGA level, and from the LGA level, they go to the health facilities.
Are they functional?
Well, some are functional, some are not functional. Those that are not functional, they basically go to the LGA level to collect the vaccine whenever there's an immunization session, and take back the remainder.
Does it affect the potency of the vaccines?
Of course.
We know that the cold chain is supposed to be functional, sustained, so that the efficacy of the vaccines, I'm not a medical doctor, I'm aware that vaccines are supposed to be stored at a particular level so that the efficacy will remain.
Yeah, of course.
That's where I'm coming from.
Oh, of course, from the manufacturer up to the time the vaccine enters the child's body, the vaccine temperature must be maintained. And this is basically what happens. So if a health facility, as I mentioned, has no cold chain facility, they go with the geostyles to the LGA level, collect the vaccine with ice packs, then come for a session. When they finish, the remainder of the vaccine is taken back to where it's kept very safe. And I think there's also an issue, I think Dr. Bassi or Dr. Terry can attest.
We can come in there.
Okay.
Yeah,
at the national level,
okay,
we have the National Logistic Working Group that deals with vaccines, cold chain, and related issues, the devices. The same thing at the state level, we have the state logistic working groups that are responsible when they receive these items from the national, they ensure it gets to the source. You raised an issue earlier, how do we manage even the hard-to-reach areas? There are plans, and this is ongoing by the National Logistic Working Group to ensure that at least one direct solar drive is placed in every ward in this country. They want to do that in 3 phases. The first phase is already on. The second phase will be early next year. And then by early 2021, they will have completed the distribution. The distribution is starting from the areas that had the more of the need. So they did inventory, where assessment, they went to the state, went to those hard-to-reach areas, involved the people at the zone and at the state to do the assessment, and they have a first-hand information of where those gaps are. And as we are talking, they are replacing those cold chain equipment to make sure that we have the direct solar drive. And this direct solar drive has advantage. Those areas might not have electricity.
Our first caller tonight before we sustain your discussion. Our first caller tonight is Ubaja. Ubaja is calling in from Imo State. Hello, Ubaja.
Used in the immunization exercises are guaranteed so that Nigeria will not become a dumping ground for fake and adulterated vaccines. Finally, the federal government is enjoying to encourage our scientists and drug research institutes to manufacture these vaccines locally to save the nation the enormous costs involved in the importation, while encouraging private hospitals to help in the regular immunization exercises. Thank you very much and God bless you.
Thank you. Before we lose that, we talked about locally manufactured vaccines. What can you talk about it?
Okay, in the past, Nigeria used to manufacture yellow fever vaccine in Biafra. Along the line, we lost the accreditation and we still manufacture and started importing. But there are plans to bring back vaccine manufacturing in Nigeria. And this is in line with the Addis Ababa Declaration of Immunization, where all the heads of states came together in 2016 and said they want to make sure that at least as part of things that we should do in Nigeria, the country should be able to start manufacturing vaccines. But vaccines are not like paracetamol. It takes a long process. So it's not something you just jump into. So that process is on, the committee has been set up, and they are going through all the processes that need to be put in place before you start coming out. So it's something that Nigeria will definitely get to at a later date.
Okay, you were continuing on your thoughts before we had the call.
Okay, on the cold chain equipment.
Yes.
So you see that effort to ensure that the direct solar drive is there even in the hard-to-reach area in all the world. It has advantage. If there is no electricity, then we have a lot of sunlight in Nigeria. God has given us free. So that effort, we give it to the National Logistics Working Group. They are doing that very well. And then the vaccine itself, the concerns will be how are we sure the vaccines are safe. Every vial of vaccine has what we call the vaccine vial monitor, VVM. It has stages, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, where even the parent caregivers can be explained to understand. Once it is out of the temperature that is supposed to be stored, it will change color. The health worker knows I cannot use this vaccine again, even if the expiry date is still far. So with those efforts built into it, we are not just monitoring the fridge, we are monitoring the vial at the point of use. Gives confidence to the health workers that I'm using a vaccine that is still very effective. Okay. And you are administering that to the children and you are sure of safety.
Okay. Then to add, in terms of safety, once vaccines come to the country, they come to the national airport at Abuja. NAFDAC send people to take samples, which they test. So you must have that sample collection from NAFDAC. They will check before they are free to use. So we don't just rely solely on what they come from the manufacturer that it is safe. We still do our own local check. So do that things put together so that we don't just end up having any form of a crisis from the vaccine itself. So a lot of safety measures are on ground to ensure that the vaccines are safe.
Okay, Dr. Bada,
and in addition, any vaccine that is coming to the country must be pre-qualified by WHO.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no way a country can import a vaccine that's not pre-qualified. That's
moving on. Yeah. Most of the reports you have heard from Ibadan, Benin, Maiduguri, and Enugu, precisely, the testimonies are that these vaccines are not for sale, and there's a lot of mobilization of the people. Now, if it is discovered that one of your operatives or any of the health workers at the federal, state, or local government level is hoarding and by chance selling these vaccines, what happens, Dr. Otere?
Well, I don't know who wants to sell the vaccines to, because the private clinics are equally being given vaccines to give to people free. So the process of selling doesn't really arise. But then we have toll-free line at the NERIC Center, which anybody that has any complaint, we can please call.
Can you state the numbers?
He's going to state it.
Okay, it's 080.
You may say that the vaccines are free, but the rural persons are vulnerable. They may not know, and somebody decides to sell.
No, but I think in Nigeria, the likely place of it not being sold is rural places because they know that it is free. That's usually primary healthcare center.
Okay, so if somebody is discovered to be selling, what number do we call?
Okay, if you take your child to any facility and the health worker asks you to pay for money, please call these numbers: 0803 123 0415. The second number is 0803 123 0416. The first and the second are similar. It's only the last. The numbers again: 0803 123 0415, and then the second 0416. Those are the two numbers. Anytime you call, you'll be answered, the information taken, and we'll send people to verify why that person is charging and ensure that accountability measures are applied, because the vaccines are supposed to be free.
Now, it is said it is one thing to take the camel to the stream. On arriving the stream, it's another thing to ask the camel to drink the water. Now, this incentive is available for the good health of Nigerians, mostly children, and even vulnerable persons who may be afflicted by it. What if, with all your mobilization, enlightenment, we discover that parents, women, don't bring out their children for this measles and polio vaccination? What happens? Are they lost to sanction such persons? I leave it open to you.
Okay. First of all, Nigeria is a signatory to the Child Health Right. So it is the right of the child to be given their protection, which includes vaccine. So if a family is seen to be resistant to giving that child that vaccine, that family can be charged to courts. But most times it doesn't even get to that level because the system is so good that it corrects itself. Nigeria has a very good system. You have the ward level, you have the traditional system, you have the lists, the Miangwas, move to the next. So there are a lot of levels of people that we go and talk to that family. As we are doing campaign in the northern part of the country now, there are some people that are resistant. They will give you all sorts of reasons. You didn't give us net when you distributed net, so you're not going to take vaccines. So it's left for you to really explain that, look, is it the net that will save your child from measles or the vaccine? So by the time you engage one or two of these people, you discover that they're just saying things for the sake of saying, so they get corrected. And if you look, there are some countries that had eradication status, elimination status in the past, Europe, America, but they started having resistance to vaccination. And if you recall, in the last 1 year, we've had a lot of outbreaks in other countries, Ukraine, Russia, even America. So they now realize that, look, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, the outcome is outbreak. So this is what we preach to them. So in the places of worship, churches, mosques, they tell them. So they understand that, look, these are things that will help your child. So you don't have to start trying to be heroic by saying you don't want to take because of 1, 2, 3 reasons. So I think it corrects itself. So I don't taking camel to drink water, taking a camel to the stream doesn't really because at the end of the day, the vaccines are given to those children.
Okay, you talked about pre-inspecting the vaccine before coming to Nigeria. Now, the World Health Organization has been very, very visible in this. European Union very visible. EU Prime has been very visible. What is the status of other development partners regarding immunization efforts in Nigeria?
Yeah, I think there are quite a good number of partners, apart from WHO, that are into immunization. For instance, we have so many partners that are funding polio as well as routine immunization. Now, what I mentioned was a pre-qualification
by the World Health Organization.
Yes, for Nigeria to buy a drug from a certain company, WHO is supposed to make sure that that vaccine is fit enough for consumption. That's a pre-qualification. Then the vaccine can be brought into the country. And any new vaccine that is coming for the first time, it has to go through NAFDAC. We have to apply, then the samples are brought. When NAFDAC says, okay, fine, that's when, the vaccines are brought in for use.
Okay.
For the other exports,
let's take this first tweet before you respond. At Fellow Baba says, why are pharmacists not involved in vaccination in Nigeria when they are supposed to be the custodian of medicines? That's a concern raised.
Well, I don't know, but I don't think it's a right tweet, because pharmacists are involved. In some of the states, most of the cold chain officer or the person in charge of the vaccines, they are sometimes pharmacists. In MPSCD, at least in the past 5 years, I tell you, at least 2 or 3 pharmacists have headed the logistic department. So that's to say that, look, it is their work. And even in the NERIC center, there are pharmacists there. The logistician logistician supporting NERIC is a pharmacist. So it's not true to say pharmacists are not part of it.
And in addition, for instance, when we are introducing these measles second dose, in April we introduced main A into the routine immunization system. We usually have this stakeholders meeting where we call all the stakeholders, tell them what we want to do, involve them at the national, at the state level. The Pharmaceutical Association of Nigeria was represented. The pediatricians were involved. From the National Medical Association were represented. Association of General Practitioners were represented. The traditional institutions the media was represented. We sold it out to our stakeholders first to understand. And the representative of the Pharmaceutical Association of Nigeria, in our expectation was to deliver this message back to the entire members of the association during their monthly meeting or quarterly meeting and the rest. And even at the state level, they are also involved, because when we want to introduce, like we started the measles second dose, we called 13 representatives from every state separately, had a meeting with them for 3 days where we took them through all the components of measles, what they need to know. And then we encourage them as they go back to the state is to invite people from the medical schools, School of Nursing, School of Health Technology, all other associations that are relevant in the state, train them on the same thing, and together with those teams, carry out the implementation at the state LGA level. So we expect that in every state that would have been involved. But maybe if we can know later after the program where the person is tweeting from, we wouldn't mind trying to reach out to people around the area where the person is, because these are the kind of things, people that show commitment, we would like to work with them. We want them to really reach him or her so that we can, or the person can also contribute to our quota. Then on the other area you asked earlier about stakeholders partnership.
You have heard the team here, they have said that pharmacists are not excluded. Pharmacists are involved. It's an all-inclusive platform. So your tweet has been addressed.
Okay, then the other area that you said, asked earlier about the partnership, who are the other stakeholders?
Yes.
This is an area, the World Health Organization. This is an area we are want to really, once again, thank the government, from the president, the minister, the executive director, Dr. Faisal Swab, for the first time in the history of Nigeria, in 2017 early, the multiple indicator cluster survey, when it was released, was 33%. The admin for that same year was about 98%. This government said no. In the past, when we have that low coverage reported, everybody would dump that one and then go for the admin that is high. Nobody cares. A state of public health care concern was declared specifically on the 17th of June 2017. We must address this issue and correct the anomalies. And under the leadership of the ED, what we now did was, a month after, specifically on the 4th of July, that 2017, the National Emergency Routine Immunization Coordination Center was set up. Okay. At that center, we have membership from all the partners on routine immunization in Nigeria. We have the MPSCDA, we have the WHO, we have UNICEF, we have CDC, Affinate, NSTOP, we have Solina Health, we have CHAI, we have our partners from Rotary that also come there once in a while. Gavi have a permanent representative. So at that center, It will interest you to know that we meet on a daily basis as far as the working day at that center, from 8:30 to between 10:30, 12, 1 o'clock.
Okay.
Every blessed day, talking about immunization, and the contribution comes from all the partners.
And when you talk about this immunization, is it composite like measles and polio put together?
Everything.
Okay,
On
let me ask
immunization.
also, Terry. It's one thing to flag off. It's one thing to mobilize. What M&E do you have in place to ensure that this is really working according to plan?
Okay. Before the campaigns, just as before the MCVT introduction, we've had meeting with all the MI officers. So the data tools were revised to say these are the things that need to be registered, right? And these are the indicators we'll look out for during the campaign. So like for campaign now, we know that this is the target population of this local government area, right? If along the line they are not meeting target, they are going below, it's through the MIE that we know that, look, this are not making progress. And we analyze all from the center we're using and send that information to the state. And we also have MSTs, manual support team in the states. Here I put that we push from Abuja to the state, to stay with the state, work with them. And luckily, we're not using the EOC system. These are product of polio. So at the polio EOC systems, which are the EOCs in the states, all this information are brought. Like example, if during the campaign, we do what we call rapid convenience monitoring, where people will just sample children on the streets. Have you vaccinated? If so, let's see the mark. So we know if you sample like 300 children, or sample like, let me make it small, sample 5 children in a settlement, or 10 children in a settlement, and you know that more than 5% of them have been missed, it is flagged. So they go back and reduce. So MIE is very, very key in getting all this work done, because without them, you use what they call data for action, without them, you can't really make any progress. You just, as if you are flying blindly without having a radar, you are just moving without having any form of control. So they are part and parcel of what we do. So the data team is a strong team that directs what's happening at the state and at the field.
Dr. Banda, I imagine you now, maybe you're heading to a place somewhere in Maiduguri.
Yes.
And you stumble on this group of rural settlers who are not aware of this current exercise, because Nigeria is huge. You could even hear from the testimony from Maiduguri, where the health officer they said, as much as they have some inaccessible areas in Maiduguri, they still make efforts to get there. Imagine you're talking to them and talking to larger Nigerians. What will you be telling them to emphasize this message so that they will be part of it?
Yeah, well, the issue is that we have to.
You're not talking to us now, you're talking to Nigerians.
Yes, you have to go back to the basics. You must, give them the benefits of vaccinations and also the negative part of it if they don't accept vaccination. That's the basic information that must be passed to them. And of course, there are some who are a bit stubborn, who may not. Those are the ones that you can now isolate and also and go further to make sure that the information reaches them basically. Yeah.
Okay, would you say that as much as you have commended what government is doing and all the grey areas cleared, all is so rosy with immunization for Nigeria? Is it very rosy?
Well,
you don't have
I will say
you don't have problems that should be attended to as you gain more grounds.
Definitely there are challenges, but a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. The first step of having identified that yes, we were not doing well in immunization in 2017 was a good start. In trying to measure our performance to know whether we are getting to where we want to reach, there are things we are looking at as we've been guided by our team leader, the ED. There are things we monitor on a daily basis. There are things we monitor on a weekly basis. There are things we monitor on a monthly basis. There are things we monitor on a quarterly basis to know whether we are performing or not. It will interest you and Nigerians to know that as we are talking now, in 19 states, northern state of Nigeria, 18 plus FCT, every health facility offering routine immunization send in their reports on a daily basis. So on the platform, we can see what is happening in every health facility on a daily basis. Then on a weekly basis, it is presented at the health center. We analyze what is happening. We see the weak areas, and then we move towards those areas to see how we address. Then on a monthly basis, we monitor the DHIS2 platform to see what comes out from each of those states. And then on a quarterly basis, the LQAS, which now from the Nigeria context, Papa LQAS, because it goes beyond just the routine immunization, but to other PSC component area, where on a quarterly basis, we do an LQAS in all our poor performing states. This is never done anywhere in the world, which globally the world is commending. So this gives us, and in the attempt implementing these things, there are challenges along the way. Challenges from the area of attitude of health workers, which is where we have developed the accountability framework, trying to make the state to buy into the accountability framework. Those that are doing well should be commended. Those that are doing badly should be punished.
About poor performing states, by the records, Edo State is considered the best performing state in terms of routine immunization. Is that record still there?
On a quarterly basis, what we are seeing now, those states still doing well. But those states that were not doing well before, it's interesting to know that they have now overtaken the state that were before doing very well.
What is that thing other states should do so that they remain at par with these states that are performing well?
Okay, before they start, NERIC, they did analysis of the states that are not doing very well, and that was how they were able to select 18 states. And I think Bayelsa is the only state from the south that joined those 18 states. So they'll be doing this continuous meeting, having interface with the state from their own LERIC, and stuff like that. So they've been meeting and ensuring that the vaccines are delivered to the places, because in vaccination, if the vaccine can get to that place, you've almost achieved 50% of your problem. So when you ensure the vaccines are in that place, the rest is like your auto drive, right? So they've been making this assurance to ensure that all these things take place. So they are doing well. Then there are some states that are exceptional. You mentioned Edo State. Edo is exceptional.
Yes.
Lagos is equally exceptional. Anambra is equally exceptional in terms of how they move. Because
do you give them awards to encourage other states?
We do. Those that did very well when you do most of these surveys, they are awarded. Then even the campaign, those that did very well in the post-campaign committee survey, they equally give recognition. So that encourages them. So those are the kind of things that make them to continue to do well. And those that were not doing well now decide to say, okay, we sit up. But one thing that is a challenge that we still have, even though when you say is everything rosy, everything cannot be rosy, because it involves using personnel, it involves funds. So if the fund is not there, there's a likelihood of things not working well. So like when we do most of these our campaigns, because we want quality campaign, so we ask the state to pay some kind of funding to support the campaign. Because most times, most of the campaigns have the main donor is Gavi. Gavi is not going to give you.
Are the states responding?
They respond. So we need some extra team to reach some places. So okay, let me give an example. FCT is 6 area councils, right? The number of teams here, if they are to work every day as planned, they won't finish that campaign in 1 month. So the state now brings extra money, recruit some teams, additional team to make the work go. So those are the ones we call counterpart funds. So most of the states have really responded well for that. And like for Kano, when we did campaign in Kano, even though the campaign was supposed to end in 8 days, they continued. Because as long as they're seeing children that were not vaccinated through the RCM, they continued the campaign. And they didn't ask Gavi or WHO to bring that money. It is the money the state brought for the campaign that they use. So funding is good. So states should be encouraged to actually partake in some of these things. And there are indicators they use at polio, the Abuja indicator, which you look at who is how many of the governors are actually taking part in the exercise, how many deputy governors are there, how many of them have their state task force on immunization. So those are things they look at, and they compare those indices, and it guides them in knowing who is going to do well and who is not going to do well. So that is one of the areas where I think the government should come back, the states should come back and actually support this process. You saw the deputy governor of Edo State. He's the chairman of the task force, and he's somebody that follows the team to check for this, to ensure that the vaccination is taking place. The deputy governor of Kaduna State, most of the time you see her at the EOC reviewing the data and working with them. So those encouragements, once the deputy governor comes to partake in your evening review meeting, it encourages the team. Kano deputy governor was at the EOC in their campaign, and their presence alone changes the team to work. So those are things we always ask the states to actually ensure that it happens, so that we don't end up achieving a very good coverage, then everybody will not draw back and they will not start going back.
Okay, before we exhaust the time on this segment, let's take this tweet for maybe you could react to it. It's coming from @Tony17038442. Immunization should be monitored and be done with international equipment up to standard and be used as a source of employment for our unemployed youths, who they can be used to mobilize in our local government areas. So, are the youths involved? Do you have ad hoc staff working with you who have been trained? That's the concern of this tweet. I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, for...
Okay, you want to respond?
Basically, the polio program uses almost 90%.
This tweet is coming from Abeokuta, Ogun State.
Yeah, we use ad hoc staff. The vaccinators, the recorders. Yeah, we train them every round. We train them, and then we deploy them to the field. Then they are monitored between the rounds, and as well as at the end to check whether the quality of work that has been done is correct. So basically, as I mentioned, 90% of the people we employ are ad hoc staff. Everyone doing a campaign.
Okay.
Yeah.
You asked earlier the challenges on immunization.
Yes.
I mentioned
government.
That they now talked about the attitude of the health workers to the number of personnel, especially in the hard-to-reach area, is inadequate in some states. And this is one area we've also been paying a lot of advocacy to the state government and the local government to recruit to bridge this gap. And we have seen in some states where, because they don't have enough, they engage some of the youths that we are talking about on ad hoc basis. And what we try to advocate to those states are to follow the major pillars of recruiting and engaging. One, do a staff audit, redistribute to the areas of need. Then some of them engage the ad hoc staff. Some will now go straight to recruitment from where they have the possibility. So we really have been taking on the executive director in particular, will be visiting the National Economic Council, visit the Nigerian Governors Forum to present these issues and request for their commitments as usual in engaging more health workers. And we have seen a lot of them responding. The other area we used to have as major challenge was funding immunization at the lower level. It was a major challenge, but this is really changing with the current effort of the agency and partners engaging the governors. Just 2 weeks ago, there was a meeting at Seattle where Bill Gates, Dangote, our own here, the executive director was there, with 2 governors per each of the zone. They met in Seattle for a whole week. They came up with some declaration, which we call the Seattle Declaration. This was presented last week to the governors here in Abuja, and all of them have keyed into it. They have all committed to giving extra attention to immunization and PSC generally with the 9-point agenda. This is a great turning point, which we believe will really boost immunization and PSC support in our various states to bridge most of the gap. One of the key things they have agreed in that declaration was on a quarterly basis. His Excellency in all the states will sit and review immunization and PSC with the entire team.
Okay, just before we go, I raised the concern that what if you have health workers who refuse to comply with the rules and regulations regarding the fact that this whole effort is free, both in the private and public hospitals, public and private facilities. Can you just recall those phone numbers again in case they have such cases before we start off this segment of the program?
Okay, in case those numbers 0803 123 0415 and the second number 0803 123 0416. Those are the numbers that if you have any challenge related to immunization in any of your facilities, please call those numbers and someone will definitely respond to you at any time.
But on the first block of Tuesday Live tonight, we looked at immunization and child survival in Nigeria. And from the testimonies given so far across the state, we went to Benin, we went to Maiduguri, we went to Ibadan, and went to Enugu. It shows that we went to Sokoto, I beg your pardon, and it shows that it is really raging positively across the country, where the exercise is absolutely free by the expression of our guest here. The government is doing everything to put it in place. It takes you and the officials for this whole effort to succeed. Be part of it to give Nigeria a health-free status for a very, very long time. Well, that's the much we can take on this segment of Tuesday Live tonight. Let me quickly say a very big thank you to Dr. Basi Oposun, Program Manager, National Emergency Routine Immunization Coordination Center of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. Thanks for being on the program.
Thank you.
And
thank you, Nigerians.
Dr. Joseph Oteri, Director, Disease Control and Immunization, National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. Thank you for being on the program.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Richard Banda, Expanded Program on Immunization, EPI Technical Focal Point, World Health Organization, and member National Polio Emergency Operations Center. It was nice having you on the program.
Yeah, thank you so much.
When we return on the second leg of the program, our focus will be on spirituality and nation building, which will focus on the flag off of the pilgrimage to Rome.
Have a wonderful life-changing experience in the Holy Land. The Nigerian Christian Pilgrim Commission, NCPC, in collaboration with the State Christian Pilgrims Welfare Boards, announces general pilgrimage. Take advantage of our excellent offer and enjoy this year's general pilgrimage to Israel and Rome. Expositions, visits to holy sites, devotional prayers in Israel and Rome, visits to agricultural sites, a special day with Jesus in Jerusalem, fasting and prayers. For enquiries, Nigerian Christian Pilgrims Commission, peculiar gospel, NCPC, we lead pilgrims to the Holy Land. Commission, we are like Moses. Hurry now and pick up your form and be part of this once-in-a-lifetime spiritual experience.
Down to the 2019 Christmas celebration.
Radio Nigeria, NTA and Voice of Nigeria poised to set the tune for the season of joy with its annual festival of 9 lessons and carols.
Theme, Jesus in the midst of the storm.
Featuring Professor Laz Ekweme Chorale, Lagos.
Classical operatic soprano by Abiodun Koya.
Instrumentals and special appearances.
Save the date. It's Sunday, 1st December 2019 at the National Christian Center, Abuja, 3 p.m. prompt.
It promises to be soul-lifting and entertaining as we showcase scintillating music from different parts of the country.
Guest speaker, Dr. Paul Enenche, Senior Pastor, Dynamis International Gospel Center.
Lessons will be read by notable Nigerians, including the special guest of honor, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, SAN GCON. Keep a date with Radio Nigeria, NTA and Voice of Nigeria, 1st December 2019, 3 p.m. at the National Christian Center, Abuja. Save the dates.
We wanna wish you a Merry
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Nigeria, the only country we can train with remarkable potentials to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values, which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope in our dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Nigeria, good people, great nation.
Make you report any crooked person, object or wakajube movement to police and security agent demo.
The security of our nation now work for all of us, plus including me and you.
Nigeria, make we unite against terrorism. The Federal Minister of Information and Culture bring on this message.
8 Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying tuned. On the second leg of the program, we'll be taking a look at 2019 pilgrimage. In a few days' time, the Nigerian Christian Pilgrims Commission will flag off the holy exercise to Israel and Rome. More than 8,000 Christians are to perform the exercise in building God-fearing people that will impact positively on the nation and humanity. Already, the Commission has reviewed and reduced the cost of this year's pilgrimage fare to Israel from 750,000 to 715,000. This is in a bid to avail more people the opportunity to embark on the exercise. But what is the state of preparedness? What is in place to checkmate the issue of abscondment? What are the programs in place to guarantee the spirituality of the pilgrims? What is the level of local content involved in the exercise, and what are the expectations of the intending pilgrims? Answers to these after this background report put together by Daniel Aderie.
What it would be like to walk in the footsteps of Jesus. And by walk, I mean in literal terms. From the tomb where Jesus Christ was buried, to the River Jordan, and even the Mount of Transfiguration. All of these historical and spiritual landmarks are the elements upon which the Christian pilgrimage is formed. The pilgrimage to the Holy Lands of Rome and Jerusalem is an annual exercise that sees thousands of Christians travel to experience and relive the Bible scriptures in all its practicality. Although the pilgrimage is not a compulsory exercise in Christendom, Christians are usually advised to embark on the journey, which in most cases helps with spiritual rebirth and orientation. The body charged with overseeing the affairs of the pilgrimage from the beginning to the end is the Nigerian Christian Pilgrims Commission. Like every year, the theme chosen for this year's pilgrimage to the Holy Land is Engaging Christian Pilgrimage for National Change and Development, and the Commission, through its acting Executive Secretary, Esther Kogi, has assured Nigerians of its resolute commitment to ensuring a hitch-free pilgrimage. On Tuesday Live tonight, we shall be discussing the challenges associated with pilgrimage both for the Commission and the travelers and measures to help tackle these issues.
2019 pilgrimage, Christian pilgrimage to Israel and Rome. How prepared, how ready? That background down by Daniel Aderie set the stone for discussions tonight, and the lines will be opened at some point. You put in your calls, raise your concerns, ask your questions, and also on our Twitter handle at Tuesday Live NTA will be open. Also send your tweets and we'll address them accordingly. I'm being joined for this segment of the program by Reverend Abayomi Kasali, Chairman, Nigerian Christian Pilgrims Commission. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. Okay. I appreciate it.
Also, the Federal Commissioner representing Southwest on the commission is Apostle Anthony Fasipe. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for coming.
Reverend Amos Yohana, Director of Operations of the Nigerian Christian Pilgrims Commission. It is nice having you on the program.
Thank you for being here.
Well, just for emphasis sake, are we ready to go?
We're very ready. Very, very ready. We want to let Nigerians know that we're excited. This year's pilgrimage exercise will be likely the best in recent years. We're hoping to have about 8,000 people. Ground handlers are already back in Israel and Rome. We've been in touch with them. We've had we've ticked all the boxes we need to tick in terms of security, in terms of preparedness, airlifting, everything. We're ready. We're very much ready. Nigerians should come in, and we're sure that they're going to have a wonderful spiritual time in the Holy Land.
We'll come to specifics.
Yes.
Very good to Reverend Yohana. Why choose Lagos for the airlift of the pilgrims?
For the first,
only Lagos?
It's not only Lagos,
okay.
But for the first 4 flights, Lagos area is ready. The pilgrims for all this from all the southwest states are ready. They made all their payments. We've done all the screening, and the concentration in that area will be able to accommodate our very first flights from Nigeria. So we are just kick-starting from Lagos. We are not only dwelling in Lagos, but we are just kick-starting from Lagos because the pilgrims there are ready and we are good to go.
Okay, are we expecting more, do you have an idea of other centers will go after Lagos?
Oh, immediately after Lagos, we're moving to south-south. We're going to Uyo, we're going to Port Harcourt. Just within the span of 4 days, we will cover those areas. And from there, we will move up north to Abuja.
So you are sure before the takeoff of this, you have been done with the airlifting of all the pilgrims to the Holy Land?
Oh, for sure. It's planned. All the flights are planned. The flight schedules are being released almost on a daily basis. So we know where the flights will be taking off from. We know the pilgrims that will be flying from which states. We've already put them down on our plan.
Okay, beautiful. Now let me ask this question that looks like a layman's question. It's all over in the streets. What are the benefits of this Christian pilgrimage? Some people say people just go there for tourism. What are the spiritual nitty-gritties of this pilgrimage?
Well, it's enormous. In the first instance, you find out that when we were young, and somebody asked me a question before, and they said that, is it true there was a Garden of Eden? Because they thought it's just a hypothetical garden. So most of the things that people have learned in the Bible, when you find out that they are real, then you begin to find out that the God that you serve is a real God. Nobody has seen God before. And the Bible states that the children of Israel, they see the deeds of God, just like you see the deeds of God as well. But Moses know his ways. Now, to be able to know the ways of God, you have to be there. When you're there, you have a personal first-time experience of what God has done that you have read. Then you see that they are not just literature. A lot of people take Bible as literature. It's the real word of God, and it's real. And then you feel the reality by the time you get in there. So it's a spiritual thing more than anything else. Although a lot of people go because of they want to sightseeing. But you find out that it goes beyond sightseeing. By the time you get to certain places, and then you feel, you have a kind of feelings that comes over you because you are part of the whole existence of what you have read in the Bible. So it's more of a spiritual exercise than just an adventure.
So what message do you have for this category of persons who go with these perspectives?
I'll say sin is believing. By the time you see, listen to this. In the Bible, it was recorded in the book of John. Nathanael was found by Philip. When Philip found Nathanael, he said, Nathanael, come. We have found him that the prophets and Moses wrote about in the Bible, that Jesus of Nazareth. Because they read about it, they did not seen Jesus, they didn't even know whether the Jesus is going to come or not. Some of them are doubtful. And he said, Can anything good come out of Nazareth? He said, come and see. So the exercise is a come and see thing. Now, by the time the man got to see Jesus, Jesus said to him that, you are a Jewish person indeed, that has no God. That he now said, how do you know me? You've not seen me before. He said, no. By the time you are sitting under the tree, before Philip called you, he said, I've seen you. Then he knelt down, began to worship Jesus because he has seen, he believes. His whole being changed. So you need to come to Israel to see what the Lord is doing, and then you'll be a different person.
Okay, this whole important exercise,
yes,
how long will it be? And I know normally the pilgrims come in portfolios of national, state, and even local government pilgrims. I stand to be corrected. Is the government involved? How are we going? What categorization are we having?
Well, let me quickly correct
Do
that.
governments sponsor pilgrims?
No. Federal government, and I have to say this, we have to quickly inform the people about the sponsorship of the federal government and state governments. The federal government does not sponsor financially pilgrims like before. However, state governments still sponsor pilgrims, and they pick them from both local government and the state at large. Then they send them to us. We regulate, we supervise, we monitor at the federal level. We're an agency that monitor and that regulate and organize and coordinate all the activities that has to do with pilgrims' efforts during the year. It's a 9 days, 8 nights event. 9 days, 8 nights. And usually we try to also touch 2 of the Holy Lands, Israel predominantly, and then we go to Rome. So that in those 9 days, 8 nights, sometimes we make sure we try to intertwine Rome with it. As for Catholic faithfuls, they want to go there and, of course, have a papal audience, which is a Wednesday, every Wednesday. They see the Pope, and he has an audience with the people. So for the Catholic faithfuls, we hope this year we'll airlift quite a lot of them to go to Rome. But pretty much it's 9 days, 8 nights, and it's more state-driven, while the federal governments create the enabling environment for this exercise to succeed. And like my colleague said from Southwest, it's usually a very spiritual encounter beyond tourism. Listen, I used to be hostile towards pilgrimage until I went to Israel, and all of a sudden the Bible came alive. Wait a minute, you mean that was what I read, the name, Nazareth, Galilee? You mean, is this real? It's almost like you be shocked. Is this real? And there's no way you can go to Israel and honestly between you and I, your life becomes the same. It's not possible. It can only add to you. It can't reduce from you.
So looking at this, what's the synergy between the state Pilgrims Board and the National Commission?
The National Commission, we have what we call Conference of States. Conference of States is 36 states chairmen. They come together, they meet very often, they come to us and let us know at the federal level their challenges, their thoughts, their plans, what they want us to do. We regulate. We meet very often with them. What they do is state executive secretaries appointed by the governors, of course, will be the ones that will help us shop for pilgrims in each state, 36 states. And then we would have a list, we'll coordinate, we'll batch them. The head of operations will batch each state based on their proximity and based on the airport. For instance, I won't take a Ogun State pilgrims to Yobe or Abuja. We'll go to use Lagos Airport. We'll take Uyo, Bayelsa, Delta to Port Harcourt Airport. We'll take those in North Central to Abuja Airport, so we can airlift them. We won't bring them down southwest or take them up northeast. So now the states relationship is very mutual, very cordial, very good. The Conference of States, the chairman and the secretaries, we meet 2-3 times a year. We have joint programs together. We go to do state of readiness together. State of readiness is when we all travel twice a year to the Holy Lands to see how ready our ground handlers are for us. The choice of hotels, the food our Nigerians are going to eat, and we let them know we have a high standards for Nigerians. We don't just want to bring them there and they throw them somewhere that's not quite pleasant. So we make those demands, and the states have a say. obviously, they usually tell us what they would like, the kind of ground handlers they would love to handle their operations while in the Holy Land. So it's a very cordial relationship.
Okay. Huge deployments. He's talked about joint programs. Where is the commission regarding relations with the body of Christ?
Well, the commission is set up mainly to oversee the welfare of Nigerians that is traveling on pilgrimage exercise. Not to go, the commission is not a church. It's a different function. The church has to relate with the body of Christ. The relationship that the commission has is one with the body of Christ, and even with those that are not mainly in denominations that want to travel abroad, that are going through us. We have to make sure that we put in all the necessary enablement to enable them to enjoy, to enable them to go safely, to ensure that their welfare is secure. That's the kind of relation, that's the purpose for which the government set up the commission. The government did not set up the commission to canvass for Christians. They didn't set it up to preach the gospel. That's not the purpose of the commission. The purpose of the commission primarily is government taking responsibility for the welfare of a citizen that is performing pilgrimage exercise.
Okay.
And that's what the commission is doing.
Our second leg on Tuesday Live tonight is the 2019 Christian pilgrimage that will flag off this Sunday. And you can join the conversation through our Twitter handle, Tuesday Live at NTA, or at Tuesday Live NTA, or when the lines are open, you put your calls through. You see the number written below the screen on the program. Well, let me go to the Director of Operations. At the opening, I talked about local content. At the opening, we talked about airlift. What's the space for local content in all this exercise?
The local content is very much considered and taken into consideration, and they in fact participate very actively. For the ground handlers in Israel to qualify to handle our pilgrims in Israel, they must have a Nigerian company in partnership with them before they qualify to bid for the ground handling of our pilgrims. This year we have 6 ground handlers, 5 in Israel, 1 in Rome. Each of those has a Nigerian partner. And these Nigerian partners, we register them because they also organize pilgrimages in small groups to Israel, and we call them Christian pilgrimage operators. So each of the ground handlers in Israel has to come and go into partnership with one of those Christian pilgrimage operators. Then they will be qualified to bid for the ground handling. So as we operate, the Nigerians have the Nigerian brothers and sisters who are also helping in managing their welfare in the Holy Land. So it's not left only into the hands of the Israelis or the Italians, but the Nigerians are participating and very actively.
What about the airlines?
The airline, when we go through open competitive bidding as provided by the Procurement Act of 2007. So when this advertisement is made, it's made in the national dailies, in the BPP journal, in papers in Israel and in Rome and in Greece. They bid. So far, we have not gotten one Nigerian airline that has shown so much interest and capacity to participate in the airlift. But the company that is airlifting our pilgrim is also a Nigerian registered company. The people are not Nigerians, but they have Nigerian directors. They have Nigerian executive directors. They are registered in Nigeria. They pay their taxes in Nigeria. All the papers that are required for bidding from the very first stage of the bidding process has to be in Nigeria. So everything has to actually originate from Nigeria. So both the airlift and the ground handling, the Nigerian content has almost a 50-50 share.
Okay.
In considerations.
Let's proceed. Who qualifies? Who does not qualify? You have your criteria. We know that there are some persons you say, whether you are adult or not, you don't qualify to go for pilgrimage at this stage or at this point.
During screening exercise, we indeed do screen some people, like those we think are likely going to abscond. Beyond profiling, when you see someone who's young, in his 20s or 30s, who doesn't have any real job back at home, who is not married, who's single. Now, if you want to profile such a person and then you ask certain questions, during our screening, before we screen, the state screen, the CPOs do their own screening exercises, we have the final say as a federal government agency before we send your names to the embassies for visas. So we ensure that we screen people out that we tend to think may likely go abroad and abscond. Because again, in recent years, the last 5-6 years, the abscondment has slightly increased, but last year we crashed it down. Last year was much better because we were more stringent, we were stricter. We ensured that we followed a bit more thorough process, screening process. So that's how we do it. However, it's meant for every Nigerian. So we don't want to become discriminatory. So we want anybody that wants to come, can come. Right. But during our process of screening, we do screen them out. There was a question you did ask before about Body of Christ. This flag off on the 1st of December, the CAN president is likely going to be there. And for you to know, we're working together with CAN. Reverend Shupo will be there. We've invited him. He will be there to help us flag off, to show the unity, and they are very active with us. We also know that CAN is supposed to have a membership on the commission. Yeah. And so we work together with the Body of Christ. We are one. Again, because you can't do this without Christian body. And CAN is actively involved with us. We partner with them.
Now, I know you have your criteria for profiling, for checking people.
Yes.
So by the time you're done here,
yes,
what do you have in place over there to also check abscondment? Because some persons are very smart.
Absolutely.
They could escape here and see abscond when they get there.
If you scale through the screening exercise here and you actually are so smart, we have security personnel. We have medical personnel that go with us. We have security personnel that go with us on each batch, on each flight, for each trip. We have sufficient security personnel. Their job is to ensure that the 300 people in on this batch go there, have their 9 days, 8 nights experience and come back. So during that process, during the pilgrimage exercise, we have hotels that we booked, that we lodge in. When they begin to see from the body language of a prospective abscondee, when they begin to see, they immediately talk to our operations personnel on ground, and we talk, and we then immediately nab them. We have that process. So we ensure that we don't have to embarrass the Nigerian name and Nigerian brand abroad. So we have that. Just in case you scale through here, we sometimes deport them on our hold. We put them on the plane. And what we now intend to do, the commission, is to begin to talk to states that are involved. And 1 or 2 states, we've written them to say, look, it looks like your states usually send quite a high number of people. I want to start levying the states, and the governors will pay. But then you start paying quite a lot of money. You will do your own screening a lot more than we will do. So, but that's what we have right now.
Okay. And I want to come in there to bring in the involvement of the federal government.
Yes.
The federal government, as the chairman has said, does not sponsor individual pilgrims.
Yeah.
But it provides these consular services by the sponsorship of medical personnel, the staff of the commission, the security personnel from all the security agencies that exist in this country. That is taken care of by the federal government. And they pay for this so that as Nigerians move en masse, these service providers that are Nigerians are embedded among the pilgrims. And you find out that even in the hotels in Israel, many of those people don't go to sleep.
They don't.
Okay. Well, this leg of the program, I'll come to this leg of the program. We're looking at the 2019 Christian pilgrimage, and our first caller on this segment is calling from Bayelsa, Kessie. Hello, Kessie. You're on to Tuesday Live. Hello.
Hello.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for your presentations. I just want to quickly ask, over the last couple of years, why has the commission been charging money for screening for medical personnel to be partake in the pilgrimage?
Okay. Why do you charge for medical screening over the years?
Well, we do not charge for medical screening. What we do when we are asking the medical personnel to come and to be recruited, we do not want people to be selected on the basis of whom they know. And so we ask them to register, and we have partnership with JAM to conduct these exams for the medical personnel. And we have a cutoff point. Nobody fails, but there's a cutoff mark where we select from each state of the federation. And in the process of registering, they pay some token fee, because we too, we use the same money and pay JAM in order to conduct this selection examination for the medical personnel. And for the pilgrims themselves, if they are charged money, maybe in the hospitals, if they go for checkups and the rest, of course, in this country, you pay for checkups and the rest. But the commission as a commission does not charge pilgrims when they go for screening. But for the medical personnel who want to go and sit for the selection exam with JAM, they pay the registration fee.
Does that apply in the States?
It's conducted nationwide.
Okay. Now, quickly, there's a Twitter coming from Abiodun Koka.
Yeah.
This clearly shows coming from Nigeria, maybe somewhere outside Nigeria. What is the criteria for these holy trips, and how much does it cost? I'll leave it open.
The criteria, first and foremost, is to be Christian, because it's a Christian pilgrimage. So the first criteria and the most important criteria is to be Christian.
Yeah.
When you are a Christian, we now determine whether that is your actual intent of wanting to go to pilgrimage. We do not want to stop people if they want to travel abroad and stay, but please don't use our platform. Use the legal processes and platforms set in place by the international bodies for you to leave the country. Don't use our platform. On our platform is for people who want to go and pray, have a desire, a hunger to pray. That is one. How much does this cost? The chairman you just said.
Sure. Maybe you could emphasize.
715,000 naira. That is all you need to pay for your flight, for your hotel, for your food, for your stay.
This covers everything.
Everything.
Okay.
Return flight. It's a charter flight.
We operate charter flights, and that money covers everything.
Okay. Reverend, is it possible I'm a Christian, but I decide to go on this holy trip as a tourist outside the holy side of it? I just go there for tourism. On the other leg of it, Rome, Israel, quite vast. How is the commission going to manage this?
Well, basically, like you've had.
I know you're not directing operations, but I know you.
Yeah, it's okay.
we know.
Yes. Basically, we have a mode of operations, and the moment you desire to go, whatever your reason might be, you need to complete a form. And then once you complete your form, you come for screening. During the screening exercise, whatever it is that you desire will be known. And then if you fit into the criteria that we have laid down, of course you are qualified, and then you pay the required amount of money, and then you go. Now, one thing that we do is this, which we have not mentioned before. In order to manage them effectively, we have what we call unseen, unknown surveillance. And what that means is this, it's just a term that I just coined now. What that means is we pair them 2-2. That is to say, if you don't see your partner, for example, in the bus when you are going to a particular site, you mention to the captain of the bus that I have a partner and I'm not seeing my partner. So we know very quickly. Or maybe when you get back to the hotel, you'll find out that your partner is, exhibiting some traits of someone that's want to abscond or have an issue. Then it will be your duty to mention to some of our officials. So that works effectively, because where we could not get to, we find out that partners, they see themselves, and of course, you are your partner's keeper.
Okay, Rome, Israel.
Rome, Israel.
It looks vast. How are you going to manage this?
Of course, we know that predominantly the people that go to Rome predominantly are Christians, because you find that at Rome, it's where the Papa is.
Catholics, right?
Catholics. It's the Catholics that go there predominantly. Other denominations of Christian body prefer to go to Israel. We have our officials, like he mentioned earlier on, we have the grand handlers. The grand handlers both in Israel, they are different from the ones in Rome. And the grand handlers know their job. Their job is to receive the pilgrims and to ensure that they give them befitting accommodation, food, and look after their well-being. So we have grand handlers that are vast in experience in both Israel and Rome.
Okay,
and so
two tweets have just come in, and one coming from Ava is directed at the chairman. It has been an interesting session so far. I have a question for the chairman. Are there plans to subsidize the cost of this pilgrimage exercise to make it affordable? Then the next one, Martin, should go to the Director of Operations. Do we have Nigerian tour guides in the Holy Land?
Okay, the first one, very simple. We've crashed it down significantly to 715,000. Our costs is dollar centered. 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago, it used about 400,000 naira, because then the naira to a dollar was about 150. Now it's about 360. So what has happened is that because of the exchange rate of the dollar to a naira in our economy, what it did is it pushed up the cost of pilgrimage, because again, the cost of chartering airplanes, jets all over the world is global. The cost of hotels in Israel hasn't changed over the last 10-15 years. The cost of fuel and other things, hospitality, other things, they don't change. But what has happened is that the exchange rate, if for instance Nigeria crashes you back to 150, you can be sure that the cost will come back to about 300, 400,000 naira. But right now it's a bit difficult, because what we just did is about $2,000 plus at 360 naira to a dollar, and that tells you that covers air flight. You know what, the cost of traveling to Europe and back, return flight, that gives you accommodation for 9 days, 8 nights. That gives you feeding. We feed them 3 square meals a day. We give them souvenirs. We have the backpacks that gives you the cost of many sites, sometimes 15 sites, that they go to holy sites. Tour buses, tour guides, we pay all those in dollars. And so that's why the cost seems to be high. As a matter of fact, we're whether to move it to 800,000. And during the last board meeting, we looked at it. We said, look, we have to understand and have empathy for Nigerians. And we crashed it to 715, barely surviving. And now, for the Rome leg, this has affected Rome. Now, this is just to Israel. For the Rome leg, it goes to 900,000 naira. 940,000 naira. Because again, we're going to now charter flights from Israel to Rome. The cost. So you see that additional flight, Lagos or Abuja to Tel Aviv to Rome. And then we're going to have 3 nights, 4 days in Rome, 6 nights, 5 nights, 6 days in Israel. So it becomes a longer, about 10 days, for 11 days for those that will go to Rome. So it's a bit more expensive than Israel. Now, some Catholic faithfuls have said, look, can we not just do Rome alone in those 7 days and not go to Israel? So we're looking at all that like a bouquet. Next year, we're going to have VIP, we're going to have the Rome alone leg, we're going to have for the Pentecostals and Protestants, they want to add Greece, where Paul, the apostle, had a Corinthian church, the Philippian church, the Ephesian church. So we're looking at 3 or 4 bouquets, but right now, this is the only bouquet, the only package that we have that we want to push out and want to ensure that people do. So that's why it's a big on the high side.
Okay. Do we have Nigerian tour guides at the Holy Land?
We do not have Nigerian tour guides in Israel because they are not allowed to practice until you go to their schools, you do all the courses, the archaeology of the land of Israel, and get licensed. You cannot operate. But the Commission also has devised a means of getting Nigerians to go and speak to the Nigerians in the language they understand. And so part of the people that the federal government sponsors through NCPC is the spiritual team. These are pastors from across the country that the Commission gets from all the segments of the Nigerian church. And they go, and the states also come with their spiritual leaders. And these spiritual leaders from the states and the ones from the federal, they are in each of the buses, and they go to each of the holy sites along with the people. And when the Israeli guys explain, our Nigerian pastors now come in to speak it in the language that Nigerians understand, sometimes in the vernaculars, so that people hear it the way they are brought up. And that contextualizes the gospel in their lives. So that is how we practice along with the Israeli guys, so that it's not just something that grammar is blown, all kinds of jargons are thrown around, and the people get confused. No. We contextualize the trip, both in language and in explanation.
Okay. Sometime on one of our programs, I think I remember the Nigerian Christian Pilgrim Commission talking about putting in place a replica of some of these sites in Nigeria. Where are we with that project?
Well,
is it progressive?
Yes, it's progressive. But shortly before then, let me quickly chip this in for the benefit of our brothers that are calling because of cost. I want to say that the primary objective of the NCPC is not profit. The objective is to bring about the welfare of the pilgrims. And in looking after the pilgrims, we ensure that the cost is not so burdensome to them. So the hope that we are bringing to them that is going to come to pass very recently is that the bilateral air agreement between Nigeria and Israel to enable a direct flight to go from us, because when you have a direct flight from Nigeria to Israel, the cost reduces, because right now we don't have that. Once that kicks in, then the air cost will reduce, and of course they will get the benefit. So that's to let them know that we are doing whatever it is that we should do to ensure that the burden of air travel to Israel for pilgrimage, it's reduced, and so that we can bring succor to them on that. Now, one of the reasons why people believe that the sites that they visit in Israel should be replicated here is that so that what they travel to see over there, if they can see it here, so that the cost of going there will be reduced. Yeah, we have that in plan, but it will not be at when you are really in the site. We have that ongoing, and it's a large project, and it's not something that comes up overnight. But a certain phase of it is in phases. The first phase has taken off, and very soon we will unveil.
But that is only for orientation purpose. Okay. You are bringing my mothers, my fathers, my grandfathers, my brothers who have not been anywhere, and you are taking them to Israel. This camp is to educate them, to prepare them psychologically and physically and spiritually for this journey. So when we have these camps They will be there, they will be given the adequate education and orientation. So we cannot, Nigeria is not a holy land in the sense of where Jesus walked, the prophets walked, the Bible was written, and it's not.
We can't.
We can only do something to educate the people, prepare them for the journey. Israel remains Israel. That is the land of promise, where the Bible was given birth to and came alive. But when you stay in the camp for a day or two before you travel, you will be adequately prepared so that when you land in Israel, you will not be completely lost.
Let me leave this open. Besides the fact that we are going there individually as Christians, we are going individually as the body of Christ, as pilgrims to the Holy Land. What prayer point do we have for Nigeria? Nigeria is going to be very religious and spiritual. So what's the share for Nigeria? Because as a team, they say when 2 or 3 are gathered in my name. Beautiful. So what's there for Nigeria? Let me start with you, Chairman.
I didn't get that question well. Our prayer point for Nigeria?
Yes, for Nigeria.
As
as pilgrims.
Oh, as pilgrims, peace.
Because if you look at the team, I'm looking beyond the commission.
Yeah, the Bible says to us, pray for the peace of Jerusalem, the place of your base. We pray for the peace of this country every time. As Christians, when we go to the Holy Land, every day, like you said earlier on, part of the consular services that we do render is spiritual. So in the mornings and at night, the pastors in batches spend time to pray. We pray together as pilgrims before we set out in the morning to go to those sites, and we pick some prayer points from those sites, depending on the spiritual messages that we can get there. In the evenings, when we come back to also share thoughts and to discuss our experience during the day, we also pray for Nigeria. We pray for the peace of Nigeria and the prosperity, because peace produces prosperity. Every land that has witnessed peace all over the world has produced prosperity. Every land that has gone through mayhem and that is not prospering is because there's no peace. We pray for investments, we pray for peace, we pray for the leaders, the President of the Republic of Nigeria, and his Commander-in-Chief, President Muhammadu Buhari. We pray for him, we pray for his vice, and we pray for the senators, everybody. So we do pray. That's our prayer point. Peace has always been number one and uppermost in our hearts as commission, as pilgrims, peace and prosperity of our great nation. Because we don't have any other nation. This is the only place we can call our home. We are pilgrims, we go there, we come back.
A bigger picture, as I'm a prospective pilgrim, for instance, and I look up to going to where my Lord lived, where the entire journey took place. I don't know the right word to put, but before reverends, apostles here tonight, expectation there and back.
Let me say this. I want to advise people, and this is what I preach, especially in Nigeria, and this is my prayer point as well. You see, in the Bible, in Ephesians chapter 1, verse 18, Paul prayed for the Israelites, for the Jews, that their eyes of understanding will be enlightened to see the glory in the call in Christ. That's his own prayer for his people. But the prayer that I have for my people, Nigerians, is that they will love God the more. Why? Because you see, they asked Jesus, and they said, which one is the greatest law? And he summarized all the law in one simple sentence. He said, love God above every other thing and love your fellow human being. If people love God, and that's the reason they have come to God, that's the reason for their pilgrimage exercise, you'll find out so many other things will fall in place. Because the Bible makes it clear in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 9, that eyes have not seen, ears have not heard, neither has he entered the heart of man, the good thing that the Lord has prepared for those who love him. See that word love coming up there? Now how do we know? In this next verse, verse 10, it says, the Spirit revealed this to us, because the Spirit of God searches all things, even then, the deep things of God. Because what man knoweth the things of man apart from his spirit? He says, so also it is the Spirit of God that knows the things of God. So when you love God with all your heart, with everything, not coming to God because you are afraid armed robbers will kill you. You are coming to make a demand on him. Not coming to God because you want a job. You are coming to make a demand of him. Not coming to job because you want to get married. You are above the age of marriage. You are making a demand of God. When you come to God, because you love God. He then begins to supply all those things. So Jesus summarized in the book of Luke, and he says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all its righteousness, and every other thing that you demand for peace, joy, marriage, money, prosperity, whatever it is, it's just an addition. It just begins to fall in place. So my prayer and my advice to Nigeria, they should develop an attitude of love towards God, and then they begin to see a supernatural change in their life.
Before I ask the chairman the last question, let me go to Director of Operations. I imagine you having the tallest task in all this exercise. And already the chairman looks prepared, the entire team looks prepared.
Ready.
And I imagine by the time you go to Rome, Israel, and back for the chairman to sustain this smile with you. What if he comes back and this smile is not sustained with you?
That smile has always been there. It will continue to be. Because
I imagine if chairman goes and arrives and sees a few lapses here and there, the smile will change.
Yeah, because the smile will be there because it's not a one-man's job. We work this together.
Okay.
I'm only representing him and the board as with their delegated power to be on the field. But we do this work together, and with my colleagues in the office, we work. These days we don't close, we close in the night. So being here is just normal for me. That's how we work. We do going working around the clock. We are putting all the plans together.
Okay.
I know when the last flight will leave Nigeria, and because I have planned. So when you plan well and you work together as a family, which NCPC is exhibiting at the moment, working together as a family, failure will not come close to you.
Thank you very much. Chairman, one word. What's your interface with our sister religion in your operations?
We have
Do you interface at all?
We have a relationship with them.
Okay.
The Arch Commission, we share thoughts, we share ideas, and that's where it is. However, because our operations are different, our seasons are different. We run 2 major operations in here, Christmas and Easter, December, and around that March, April. And my last word would be to thank His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for believing in us, in me as a chairman, and for giving us the support to run the pilgrimage exercise in this country. I want to thank my supervising minister, the SGF, Mr. Boss Mustafa, for also supporting us all this while. They've always been there by us. I say, look, whatever you need, we'll give to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank Nigerians for being us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend Abayomi Kasali, Chairman, Nigeria Christian Pilgrims Commission. It was nice having you on the program. And Apostle Anthony Fasigbe, Federal Commissioner representing Southwest on the commission.
You're welcome.
And also Director of Operations, Reverend Amos Johanna.
Great privilege.
Well, it is high spirit and it's a countdown already to Sunday. We wish all the pilgrims to Israel and Jerusalem a wonderful pilgrimage while in the Holy Land, and all the blessings will come to Nigeria. We began with immunization and child survival in Nigeria, and we capped up with the 2019 Christian pilgrimage. It was nice having you on the program. We thank you for all your calls. We thank you for your tweets. And on behalf of all of us, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.